Hello everyone, it's hectoring here. Since I can't stream as much as I would like, I thought I'd make some YouTube videos instead about some gameplay. And today's episode is called Bro, Do You Even Kelthor? I'm sure many of you have heard about Kelthor mirror matches, and the prevailing opinion seems to be that it's A, about luck, B, about who gets to go second, and C, about who gets to flame second. And I'm going to show you that those are usually misconceptions and that there's a lot more subtlety involved in these matchups. First, let's take a quick look at the deck itself. 4 Goblin Scouts, self-explanatory. Most of it's pretty standard, just that I've chosen to go down to 2 Paos because they don't provide much board control. And I've trimmed one of the War Olifants to go up to 7 2-drops because I think that curving out is really important in a lot of matchups. 2 Crushers, 3 Shredders, 2 War Tents, 2 Fireballs. Just a bit of tweaks here and there from any other list that you'll find online. Alright, so let's go and watch some replays. So here I'm starting first with the Goblin Scout. This looks like a pretty solid hand going first. But look, he's got the Nut Goblin Scout Firebolt draw, putting me behind on tempo automatically. I could kill his Goblin Scout now, but I decided to play a Hunter instead, to try and get some stuff on the board. Again, here I opt not to kill the Scout with a Firebolt, instead just protecting my Hunter, making his Oliphant have to move next turn, otherwise it's going to lose out in combat. And now this is pretty good for me. I can use the Firebolts on both his Scouts and play a 2-drop of my own. I think making use of all your resources every turn is really helpful in a Kelthor mirror match. And because of that I get to use Moon Phoenix, which is just great because it's such a game of attrition, you get to play it over and over again. So, Tainted Orc comes down. I've got 2 Fireballs in my hand, but you can't really play around them because Orcs and Oliphants, well, frontline creatures are really the best ones that Stronghold has to offer. And Fireball is pretty uncommon nowadays, so... But yeah, here I'm sort of setting up for the Fireball across all his creatures. He takes out the Oliphant, but that's still okay for me. And I get great value here, as you'll see. Also, the great thing about Phoenix is that now, for example, I think is he going to flame? I think he top decks flame here, and I still get my Phoenix back. So I blow a Fireball on the Vulture Rider, and get a counter on the Brute. This is one of the reasons why Fireball isn't as great anymore, because when you're using it as a lightning strike, it's pretty suboptimal. He gets to take care of the Tainted Orc with his Shredder, and you see now, even though I had that massive Fireball turn earlier, I'm still behind on life and only about equal in terms of board position and cards in hand. The Black Skull Crusher here is great because I don't have to worry about Lightning Strike plus the brute taking it out. Now, the brute is one of the best creatures in the Kelthor mirror, and you want to get it off the table ASAP. So here I'm going to use my disposable Moon Phoenix plus the Shredder to take it out. Get some counters on, get some damage into the brute, put down a tainted orc. I mean, in this game it seems that it's all about value plays, like you just use the war tent to take care of that shredder, and it's definitely sort of whittling each other's resources down rather than some sort of rush fest. Now he hasn't been attacking with his tainted orc into my crusher, probably because he imagines that I'll have, you know, a fireball, a lightning strike, or a war tent to finish it off if he does. But I think he probably should have done, because I've got plenty of other good targets for the removal spells that I could have used them on already. In any case, I'm gonna stack a shooter behind it now, so he's got to do something about that lane. And then here I played Peddler for Song. I mean, partly I'm bluffing that I've gone for Flame so that he will overextend and then I can try to finish with a song. Definitely it's an option you should consider, that fetching Song of the Lost can be really great, and even the threat of a Forbidden Flame can make your opponent play really differently. Now he's got the Sacrificial Altar to take care of the Black Skull Crusher. Sacrificial Altar can be a huge card in Kelthor matchup, such an resource efficient way to take out a massive creature. Although it does give you some card disadvantage. I mean, here he's just used the extra counter on his brute to kill my tainted orc as well. I mean, look at this board position, but it's all gonna turn around in one turn because I've got a brute of my own, plus a sweet lightning strike. I don't want to overextend now. I've just decimated his board and can pretty much finish soon with the song, so there wasn't any need to play that hunter there. I mean, yeah, here he's being forced to just randomly put down creatures to block, so the rest of this game is pretty much a formality. Right, next replay. I mean, there's no hard and fast rule for what you should do in Kelthor mirrors, just, you know, I'm trying to show some principles. I've got a 70% win rate against 1500 Kelthor, so I would hope that I know a little bit of what I'm talking about. Here you see I kept a hand that had a 1-drop but no 2-drop. My reasoning was that if I mulliganed, the best case scenario is that I'm going to get a hand with a 2-drop and a 3-drop. And in the majority of cases, a 2-drop is just, you know, another 2 damage shooter or flyer which comes out a turn later. The only difference is that it survives a fireball, and most of the time, if your opponent's curving out a Goblin Scout's going to have just as much impact as a Goblin Hunter for a little while. And it comes down a turn earlier, chips away 2 damage, get some tempo in. So I mean, here things aren't looking great. We've both got Oliphants out, but he's got 2 shooters on board. This is the disadvantage of going first kind of thing at work here. I don't really like putting guys in front of shooters, because then if he had put a Tainted Orc down in front there, then I'd be in a bit of a jam. So he's gone for the Peddler for presumably Flame instead. And this is pretty interesting here now, because I really don't want to overextend into Flame, but at the same time he's threatening, 6 damage in his open lanes, which is, given that I'm only on 14, can be pretty massive. So I play Zephyria here. Because of magic resist, now even if he flames it survives, which is so good. And if he doesn't flame, then because of the swift ability I can just chip away at his line of creatures. He plays another Peddler, showing that he's got both Song and Flame in his hand. So I've got to play super carefully from now on, because Song plus, whatever quick attackers he's got in hand can be deadly out of nowhere. So this turn I actually made a mistake. If I planned it out before, I would have realized that I didn't want to overextend into his flame, so I should have just put a War Tent on the Zephyria to sneak in an extra couple of points of damage here. Also, I should have drawn before I did anything to sort of have a better plan of what I was going to do that turn. Anyway, as I was saying, I put down just a blocker there to soak up 3 points of damage, try and force him to flame. It's situations like this where it kind of becomes a game of chicken, even. So he really doesn't want to flame until he can find a way to get Zephyria off the board at the same time. But I've got such a stacked hand at the moment. I've really managed to leverage the Swift ability to gain a sort of card advantage by chipping away at his shooters. He's put down a lot of cards just to buy him time to set up a devastating flame. But yeah, the Lightning Strike is going to enable me to keep Zephyria on full health. The War Tent there takes out the Vulture. Now I could have killed the Peddler with the Swift ability, but I'd rather move the Orc down to not lose the War Tent to a Pal, get in a couple of damage. And I mean, in this situation, it's not like I'm behind on board, so I'm not particularly worried. There's a Fireball. So now if he does flame, then Zephyria will die. That Sahar Brute is too dangerous to let live, so I'm probably going to power it from the War Tent. Yep. And here's the great thing about Zephyria. I'm able to give that top power Swift so that it makes room for a second one, putting my opponent down to 8. And now I've got loads of potential for burst damage of my own with War Tent and Song of the Lost. So I mean, the reason I dropped that Vulture, despite the fact that he's got a flame, is because if he declined to flame 2 creatures, I could have him dead next turn with Tent plus Song. His flame killed 2 of my creatures and his Goblin Scout, so I'm pretty happy with that. now my top deck Crusher, which is really interesting. I mean, I just jam it in that top lane, and with a War 10, it's a pretty massive threat which can't be dealt with easily. And again, I'm threatening lethal next turn of Song. He's got to chip away at that Crusher somehow. He blows his removal spells on the Vulture Rider, and you can see he's pretty desperate here because, you know, the Brute's a really valuable creature, and he's just jamming it in front of the Vulture Rider so that it can hopefully take out the Crusher at some point. But I've got the Lightning Strike for it, and I actually made a mistake there. I realized that Arbiter is one on the table. I have played a Phoenix instead of the Scout. Here he's forced to use his Song defensively to fireball my creatures. Plays a blocker, which now I'm thinking, do I want to use a strike on it or to get 5 damage through? The fact that I draw a fireball off the top means that it's well worth it. Now Phoenix comes down, and with only 3 cards in hand, there's no way he can take care. He can protect himself from 3 damage. So there you have it. Went first. I didn't have to use Forbidden Flame in that match, or even Song of the Lost for that matter. And that wraps it up for today. Thanks for tuning in.